everyone, and welcome back to All Things Star Wars, the greatest Star Wars podcast in the galaxy. I'm Mr. Jason Roscom. With me here each and every single week, the Darth Vader to my Palpatine, Dave Martin. Hello, Dave.
Hello, Jason.
How are you?
I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm answering the chat already. There's already some chirping in the chat. I love it.
Oh, good God. So much going on. So, what are we talking about this week?
Well, courtesy of Bronco Fett, or shall I say, at the browbeating of Bronco Fett, we're gonna talk about the Poe Dameron comics, episodes or books 14 through 16 of the series.
Yes. So only 3 comics this time. Normally, when we do a comics episode, it's like 10 issues of something, but we're cutting it down a little bit so we can get into some more finer details. And we've got some other stuff to talk about, as we always do. So we're going to try doing it in a shorter burst and see how this goes.
Yeah. And plus the way the storyline went, it kind of worked itself out that way anyway. So, so it's all good.
Yeah. Plus there might have been a little bit of mismanagement on my part as to what the topic was going to be this week. And
I guarantee it. I guarantee it.
Yeah, so my bad. But before we get into that, we've got a bunch of stuff we want to talk about. First, let's hop right into a day in Star Wars, because I pulled a unique one out that I wanted to talk about. And this is, oh God, where's my notes? September 15th, and this is September 15th of 1993. And I will just read this thing verbatim. The Star Wars Trilogy Definitive Collection Laserdisc Box Set, priced at $250, is released, offering the first domestic widescreen presentation of the original trilogy. Now, I don't know if you have this pulled up on your app, but it's a pretty sweet looking box set. Now, this was Laserdisc, keep in mind, because there was a brief period of time, kids, before DVDs took over the market. Between VHSs and DVDs, they tried a different digital format, and that was Laserdiscs, and they were about the size of a record. And they played movies in allegedly.
Excuse me. Sorry.
My God. Better cut down on those Diet Cokes, man.
Yeah, no. Bad chance.
But yeah, this Laserdisc was a format. It was beloved by the people who really followed it. It stayed alive for years, but it never really caught on with the mainstream. Probably because it was so goddamn expensive and because the things were so big and cumbersome. But yeah, thinking about this was the very first time that a widescreen edition of the Star Wars trilogy was available for public purchase. Now, I know we've talked about this before, like some of the later VHSs that I bought before they started only putting out the special editions. I bought the widescreen editions of Star Wars. And we've touched on it a little bit here and there throughout the podcast, but there are distinct differences. For those of us who grew up on pan and scan TVs, no widescreen, no letterbox, you missed out on a good chunk of the movie if you were just watching it on a standard format TV back in the day, that I didn't realize until the mid-90s when my friend Doug exposed me to widescreen and like, oh, you actually get to see more of the picture. It's not that they're taking away parts of the picture on the top and bottom. It's just that they're stretching it, and they just have to put those black bars on the top and bottom so you can see the rest of the side of the pictures.
Right, and honestly, you kind of lose, when you're focused on a movie, you don't even recognize that there's bars at the top anyway. So it really, it's not like it took away from your experience, your movie experience.
No, but that was a big complaint from people, I remember, from the mid-90s, like, oh, I don't want to watch that. It's got the bars on the top and bottom. That's annoying.
Well, here's the other thing that, some of the kids out there that are listening might not remember, is the fact that televisions were square.
Yeah.
You had, even if you had something as big as, let's just say you had in the early 90s, mid 90s, you still had like a 35 or 37 inch CRT. That was a big, heavy motherfucking television, but it was square. It was fucking square. So like it was noticeable because of the black bars across the top and bottom. Because you're watching it on a square screen. Now, almost every television you own, the monitors I'm looking at right now, the iPads, they're rectangular.
Yep.
So it accommodates the widescreen format much, much better. So it's almost as if when they were designing televisions to make them bigger and more, and more palatable for our viewing experience, they made them wide. And It is. It's fucking fantastic. You know, I have a 60-inch upstairs. When you're playing a movie on that thing, oh God, fucking amazing.
Yeah, and you know, one thing I wanted to check was how much this box Laserdisc set is going for on eBay, but I forgot to look it up. I'm sure it's fucking astronomical now.
Probably.
Or it's dirt cheap.
Because of the limited release. If it's dirt cheap, I'm fucking getting it.
Then you got to find a Laserdisc player.
No, I don't. I just have to display it. I don't need.
That is true.
Don't need to go crazy here. I don't need to watch it. I just need to own it.
Yep. And before we move on from this topic, I do want to mention two things. I know I've mentioned one of these on the show before, but the differences between the old pan and scan Star Wars and then watching it in widescreen, the biggest difference that I noticed upon first viewing of the widescreen was Empire Strikes Back. Leia goes in to kiss Luke after her and Han are bickering. She goes in and kisses him. And what you see in the old pan and scan when they chopped off the sides was just Han kind of looking over her shoulder as she's kissing Luke going, oh, what the fuck? What you see in the full widescreen version that I didn't see for fucking years was C-3PO walking up and looking over at Han and just being like, dude, what the fuck? And I thought that was the funniest shit. And then there was another one, if you remember, in Return of the Jedi, when Leia and Han were trying to open up the blast doors for the fucking shield generator. Leia gets shot. Han's tending to her. Then a couple of stormtroopers come up to them and be like, freeze, don't move. Mm-hmm. And you see the two stormtroopers coming up to him. And Leia pulls out her gun. In the old pan and scan, when they had it chopped off, you only see her pull out the gun and shoot one of the stormtroopers. And I remember people asking for years, like, well, what happened to the other stormtrooper? She only shot the one. Well, in widescreen, you see her shoot them both and they both fall down. So that's just two of the little subtle differences you see between the old pan and scan and widescreen nowadays. But that was the kind of shit we had to deal with growing up with square TVs in the fucking 80s and 90s.
Yeah, it was the dark ages. So I'm putting a bid right now.
Oh God!
On Star Wars movie set of 3, set on Laserdisc. It's starting at $10.
Oh shit!
And I think I could do a buy it now for $80 for all 3.
Nice.
I'm not gonna do that. So I'm gonna place a bid, and there we go. So
that would be amazing.
It's gonna be out there for 5 days. What am I gonna do with it? Absolutely.
You'll have to update us next week.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a good one. That's a good day in Star Wars.
Yes.
Funny story about Laserdisc. So you're talking about that formatting and everything. So back in 2002, I went to Boeing to learn how to work on a 757. Right.
Yes.
So Boeing had all of their computer-based training on Laserdisc for the 757. So like when you went to go do the training, like say you'd have days throughout like the lesson plans to just, okay, you're going to do CBTs today. And so you'd have to go into the back of the room and there was like a main like bank of Laserdisc players and you'd have to go select the disc for like, 757 avionics and put this Laserdisc in. And that's how you did your computer-based training. And this is in 2002.
Which is funny because DVDs started really taking off in like 96, 97. So this is like 5 years after fucking DVDs really started taking off.
Well, you figure the 757 started being built in the 80s. So and when they were doing the training, they probably were like, hey, we could, in the late 80s, early 90s, they're like, hey, this is be a good methodology to be able to do our computer-based training. And they probably spent a bunch of fucking money on it. And they're like, oh, fuck, this format never took off. Well, okay, well, we still have it. It still works. So that's what we used for training.
That is too funny. I would imagine they've updated by now. Jesus Christ.
I did. Well, since they don't make the 757 anymore, I don't know even know if they have the same type of training that I went through.
Yeah, that's true. So, anywho, moving on. Got a couple of shout outs that we want to throw out there. First of all, huge shout out to Bronco Fett. I know we talk about him every week on the show. If you're getting tired of hearing about him, well, too fucking bad because he's the unofficial third member of the podcast. He made up a sign because, as we've talked about before, he wears the whole Bronco Fett get up to all the Boise State college football game home games. He made an all things Star Wars sign this weekend, and he took it out to the fucking game yesterday, which was on ESPN last night. Oh, by the way, and you got a couple of small shots of it on ESPN. He posted some pictures again today, but that's just fucking awesome. Bronco Fett, Tom, thank you so much. That really means a lot, and you are the motherfucking man.
Yeah, you are the number one ATSW fan.
Yes.
Yeah. And yeah, that's just fucking awesome. It was awesome that it because you're in a perfect spot, and the camera seems to find you every game when you're there. I mean, how could you not? Between you and Bronco Vader and Orange Jacket guy, I mean, why would you not go to those guys? So yeah, kudos to you. Very good.
So yeah, thank you, Bronco Fett. Keep it up. Go BSU. One of these days, I'll actually learn your go orange, go blue, fight BSU, something like that. I'll learn it eventually.
Yeah, you do that.
Yeah, Michigan lost this week though, so I'm pretty sad. But I do have another shout out real quick, and that's to longtime listener Mark Somerville. I guess last week, when I talked about my week, I didn't sound like I was in the greatest of spirits. I don't know. You might have to go back and re-listen, refresh my memory. But yeah, I sounded pretty down last week. And Mark actually reached out to me not long after we recorded that episode. And he had a lot of really nice things to say. And I just want to thank him personally, Mark. Thank you for reaching out and for all your kind words. And I didn't realize that he was also prior military. Did you know that?
I did not.
Yeah, we tend to attract a lot of prior or even current military listeners. I wonder why.
Funny that way.
Yeah, it's funny how that works. But thank you, Mark, and fuck you for making me get sentimental on the podcast. So never again. But anything else before we hop into our week?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, I will start with mine as always. No real Star Wars stuff to speak of this week, though I did download 2 apps to my phone. Because I updated my phone about a month ago. I re-downloaded the what the hell is it called? The Galaxy of Heroes, Star Wars game, which was actually really fun, and I've been meaning to get back into that. And also, there's another app out there called Star Wars Commander. It looks kind of like a base building, real time strategy type game for the iPhone. So I downloaded that.
Excuse me.
And started playing it on the shitter, but it's got a long fucking intro, and I'm just like, I just want to get the gameplay. But it seems like the production value is pretty high on it, so I will hopefully give you a better update next week after I've actually put some time into it. I'm feeling better than I was feeling last week. Last week I was kind of down in the dumps, but I've sort of pulled myself out of it slowly but surely, despite the fact that I still haven't gotten my fucking promotion. Remember over a month ago when I was scrambling at the last minute to do my promotion board and everything else? Yeah, still haven't gotten my promotion order. I don't fucking know. I'm just starting to think that this is all one big rib by somebody in my fucking unit. They're just like, oh yeah, we're going to get this fucker. We're going to make him think he's getting promoted, and then we're never going to do it, and we're just going to string it along for fucking ever. Fuck him. That's the only explanation.
All I can say is that it'll get there. Soon.
Okay. We'll see.
Soon.
Yeah. When will then be now?
Soon. I feel for you, man. Believe me. I've made all the backdoor communiques that I can to try and push this rock further uphill, but it's not the best. Unfortunately, the wing that I used to belong to is not very good at doing things. They're good at certain things, but really not good at other things. And we'll just leave it at that, because I don't. Yeah. Lord knows I don't want to disparage my former employer, and but now that I am retired, so
yeah.
Anyway.
And I'll answer Bronco Fett's chat right now. Yeah, the tank top. Unfortunately, Dave hit me with a surprise. Oh, can you record right now? I'm like, oh, fuck. All right, I got to get a few things ready. And then my wife calls me. She's like, I need you to do this, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh, fucking shit. And I forgot my tank top. So, sorry.
Perfect.
But I am wearing, I don't know if you can see this. This is my mashup Big Lebowski Star Wars t-shirt. It's The Force Abides, man. So
That's a great T-shirt.
it is.
I've said it before in the podcast, and I'm at the risk of repeating myself, which I do anyway. So fuck it. The this fucking he has the best collection of mashup T-shirts ever. Like it is fucking phenomenal. We could we're on episode 72 of this podcast. I can almost guarantee he wouldn't have a repeat T-shirt. It's just that extensive. So
Yeah.
it really is impressive. When when I was coming on other podcasts, in the Project VCR when we were taping that, and you'd be in a friggin' a mashup T-shirt for those too.
Mm-hmm.
So,
oh yeah,
it's impressive.
Yeah, but a lot of them are, even especially this one, they're starting to get a little bit worn out. Like the collar's all tearing up, so they're gonna have to go into the archives at some point. Yeah, but anyway, last thing I have to say is dealt with some more technical difficulties this week and trying to get last week's podcast posted. So I just ask for a little bit of patience on this. That this remote recording it's very frustrating for multiple reasons. One big reason is I don't have my main computer here, and we don't have the in-studio technology that we're recording from normally. So I kind of have to make shit work on the fly sometimes. And I experienced more technical difficulties last week and eventually got it worked out. So, but last week's episode just got released yesterday because of
you didn't tell me what was going on with that. Was it something like a distance thing? Sorry, my ear itches like crazy. This is great for the fucking YouTube audience. Look at me.
This week's issue was the extracting of the audio from YouTube. The source where I used to do that from shut down, so I had to find a new source, and it was not easy. But I eventually worked it out. So, but that's all.
Good job.
Thank you. So what about you?
So unfortunately, it's been a rough week for the Martin family. We lost a family member to cancer this week. My cousin's wife. I'm not going to get into the details about it. It has been a tough week. It's a young family, and it's kind of hitting us. It just recently, like it's just one of those things that was kind of like building up during the week, and then we found out yesterday. So, just you can keep the Martin family in our Star Wars group in your thoughts and prayers for getting through this tough time, especially my cousin. But the only thing I really have to say about it is fuck cancer.
Yeah.
Fuck cancer.
And it's weird because, like you mentioned, they're younger than us. They're pretty young families. So
yeah,
it's one of those things where you never know when some shit like this is going to happen, because you can't predict it in a lot of times. And it just goes to show, life is fragile, and enjoy every day if you can. I know some days are rough, but I mean, you need things like this to kind of put shit back in perspective. Maybe don't let the guy that cut you off in traffic this morning ruin the rest of your day, because really it's not fucking worth it, because who knows if you're going to be here tomorrow, and was it really worth stressing out about that for a whole fucking day? So, I mean, the only lesson that we can really bring to the masses from this is, enjoy life. It's precious, it's fragile, and, always try to make things better for everybody around you.
Sage words, my friends, sage words. Live every day to its fullest. That's for sure. And don't let as much as you can, because it's tough. It is
sure.
Tough.
We still have to go to work. We still have to deal with all that bullshit.
Deal with stress and do all that stuff. And sometimes that perspective is tougher to get than others. But when you have the opportunity, hug your kids, hug your dogs and cats, or whatever it is that you're that you care for a little bit harder, when you see them. Yeah. So anyway, that's all I'm going to say about that, except for fuck cancer. Fuck cancer.
Yes.
Anyway, trying to put that aside. From a sports perspective, I had a good week. The Eagles won the NFL opener on Thursday night against the Falcons. It was as stressful as the fucking NFC Championship was. It was unfucking believable. It might as well have been a carbon copy of it up until the last play of the game with Julio Jones getting pushed out of bounds. You know, what would have been a game-winning touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
Unfucking believable. But the Eagles pull it out. You know, and Nick Foles finds a way. So we'll keep pushing with Saint Nick until we can get our boy Carson Wentz out there, which reports are saying soon. It's tough. See, it's the same thing. You know, this is welcome to the football edition. You know, this is the football portion of the All Things Star Wars podcast. What's with the rumor mills and things like that, where we talk about how we don't want to go in with Star Wars and get involved in a lot of the rumors and shit like that.
Sure, yeah.
As sports fans, when you're like heavily invested in a team and you see things like this, like our number one receivers, you know, not playing. He's been inactive, but he's not on the IR. He's not on the PUP. And so it's like, oh God, okay, what's going on with him? When are we going to see him? Our fucking MVP caliber quarterback, you know, who got injured last season, still hasn't been clear for contact. When the fuck is that going to happen so we can get him on the field? So we're doing all these things, you know, and trying not to read into reports and stuff. And it's I have to have the same mentality to do with the Star Wars shit. Like, stay away from the rumor mill, stay away from all that stuff, and really just, you know, focus on what's coming out from the, you know, Eagles.com or StarWars.com or whatever. But it was a stressful game. I don't need to do that every week. If I have to do that 16 games this season, there's not enough blood pressure medication on the planet to keep me from being in the hospital.
Yeah. Kathleen Martin wants to know, was there a game? Question mark.
So we'll relate that to the Penn State game. So Penn State played last night. It was a 8:00 kickoff. And what's funny is, we'll segue my next thing. It's been fucking raining its ass off, and I'll get into that here in a minute. But so the Eagles game was delayed for thunderstorm that blew through, right? You know, first NFL game of the season. Why not? Why not start 45 minutes late? So then Penn State plays last night, and the game, I didn't get to bed till late, and even despite the game being over, and there was a, you know, Bronco Fett had a nice acknowledgement to the like the report of murder of Pitt. It was Penn State versus Pitt, a little in-state rivalry, potentially their last one for a long time, just because something, again, goes into the college football conversation that we get into a little bit in a private group between Bronco Fett and some of the other guys. You know, they talked about it last night during the game, how the AD for Penn State is like, look, we need to make sure that our non-conference games have enough weight to them so that we can be competitive for the playoffs. And so playing Pitt every year isn't necessarily going to, the caliber of that team isn't necessarily going to be enough to push it up. So who knows? Maybe in our non-conference schedule, we go see somebody like Boise State, you know, or do something like that. So we're seeing more upper-ranked teams early in the season, so that it gets us moved up higher as far as Penn State goes. And I think that's the way things are going in college football. But we do a whole podcast on that.
yes, we could.
So anyway, so Penn State wins, right? They blow out fucking. It was an ugly game. It was fucking raining. It was miserable. The first half was terrible. Second half, Penn State just was like, okay. Pitt kept shooting themselves in the foot, the neck, the fucking face, anything they could do. Like, it started right from the fucking coin toss when they won the coin toss, and the coach wanted them to defer, and then the kid out in the field actually said, we want to receive. So straight from the beginning, the special teams was fucking Pitt, and they continued to fuck them straight up the ass for the entire first half. It was tough to watch. It really was. And the difference was that Penn State took advantage of those mistakes, and that was the difference in the game. Like, it wasn't that Penn State at the end of the game just pushed everybody over, because Pitt was just, by then they were just exhausted. Yeah. But yeah, so it was like 47-6, I think was the final. Or it might have been 50. I forget. Honestly, it was late, but
it was a big margin.
It was big. So anyway, so my daughter goes to Penn State. So, and I've said that before, but I like saying it. And condolences to Rutgers, my son's Rutgers team, for getting absolutely annihilated by Ohio State. I mean, Rutgers put up 3 points to their 70. I don't even know. It's just ridiculous numbers. So, that was that, and that was in conference. So, poor Rutgers. Anyway, so we take my daughter back to school today. She wasn't feeling well. We brought her home, just to get her feeling a little bit better. Dropped her back off at school, and my wife was in the Wawa, and I gave her I have a Penn State pullover, because it's raining and nonstop. And in the Wawa, somebody starts talking to her about the Penn State game. My wife's like, "Why? What game? It was a game?" And it was like, and she's like, "Oh, wait, I'm wearing this Penn State shit." And we're around the Penn State campus, so obviously people are going to want to talk about the game. So it was just funny.
That's good.
And I had it here in the notes. Bronco Fett wins, and not only does he win, his football team win on the field, but Bronco Fett wins as the fan of the week, the fan of the month, the fan of the year, with getting an ATSW sign out there. The only thing that would be, oh God, the ultimate would be if College Game Day was it in Boise, and we could get Bronco Fett on College Game Day with an All Things Star Wars sign. That would be fucking fantastic. Those of you who don't watch college football or anything like that, that aren't sports fans, again, apologies for our football segment. But so College Game Day, what they do is they take the ESPN crew, right, and they go to somebody's hometown, where they're having the home game, and they stack all the fans and everything are all behind them while they're doing the broadcast, and the entire broadcast, all the students are behind them, students and the fans and everything, and they have the signs, like, just Google College Game Day signs or like best College Game Day signs. You will fucking laugh your tits off. It is fucking hilarious, the shit that people come up with. And even if you don't follow college football, some of it's like, slightly political. Some of it's like just completely off the wall. It's just fucking hilarious. And I just, that would be the ultimate, let's get Boise State up there to a point where we're going to do College Game Day at Boise State. And I want Bronco Fett front and center, dude. I will be on ESPN's Twitter page non-fucking stop to make sure that happens. But it's way to go, Bronco Fett, for getting us out there, in all shapes and sizes.
Yes.
That was a long segment on that, but we did talk. We're only talking about 3 comics, so we're padding our time here.
We got time.
Plenty of time. Yeah, right. We'll run right to the last minute.
Oh fuck! We need to knock out these 3 comics in 2 minutes.
Yeah, don't. So anyway, here in fucking New Jersey and in Pennsylvania, like the tri-state area, it has been an epic amount of rain. I mean, and I'm talking like we've had like the 100-year storms or whatever, and you talk about the hurricanes and shit like that. We had a thunderstorm cell come through here on, it was Thursday night. Mm-hmm. Thursday night? Or Friday. It was Friday night. And there was more lightning in an hour than I've seen in my entire life.
Really?
Okay. Our poor lab, like our lab, her name's Sammy. She can't handle like the loud noises from thunder and shit like that. She goes and she hides in the bathtub. She spent like half the night in her bathtub. So my wife and I we're sitting on the couch. We're watching TV, and I decide, you know what? Let me just check out back to see what the situation is in the yard, because it's been raining pretty hard. We look out front, and the entire street out front is a river. And the river is flowing at like 50 knots. I mean, it is unbelievable how fucking fast the water's moving. I'm like, that's a lot of water. Let me go. So I go out back. I open the back door, and right at my back door, there is like, I'm watching water cascade down the stairs towards like inside of my house.
Oh yeah, because your back door, there's kind of like a dip.
Yeah, yeah, because it goes
you're below ground level.
Yeah, where I'm sitting right now, this white edge that you see here, like that's like basically ground level. Like this is subterranean, and so then it goes up like this, right? Whatever. Welcome to my house. But so that means that the steps that come into this part of the house from out back, you know, it's covered. It's covered by my Florida room. But the problem was there was so much rain that it was puddling on the patio. I have a concrete patio on the other side of the house, and the water was not going down the driveway. It was going into my Florida room underneath the door. So I had 1.5 inches, almost 2 inches of water in the Florida room that was working its way up and then started coming down the stairs. So I had to run outside, out to the shed, get one of my pumps, because in the 12, 13 years we've been in this house, we've had like 2 major flooding incidents but it was the water table had risen because we live so close to the water.
Yeah.
This is not the case this time. It was fucking this. When I got out into the yard, I'm in my fucking, my boat shoes. I'm in water up to my fucking ankles.
Holy shit.
Like there was so much water in the yard. And I'm
just
like
walking around on the grass in your yard.
In the grass in my yard. And you've been in my yard, next to the pool there. I'm up to my ankles in fucking water. And it's lightning every fucking half a second. I'm standing there like, I'm standing in ankle deep water trying to get into my shed as lightning is like hitting the neighbor's house and fucking crashing all over the place. I'm like, oh, holy shit. So I get the fucking pump, and then I have to stand outside for longer, go into the pool box to get the hose out that I'm going to use to pump the shit out of the thing. I'm like, oh my God, we're going to start lightning. Throwing shit around. And if I can get the pump running to start containing that issue, and it's starting to dip over the sill, and I'm like, oh, I'll get the sandbags. So I have a pile of sandbags, right? I have this. You were in the unit when Gunny made his sandbag thing around this.
Oh yeah,
this right?
Yep.
So when he took that down, there was a lot of extras. So I got some sandbags, like old school canvas military sandbags.
Yeah.
I have a pile of them. You know what the problem with those sandbags are? They're not pre-filled. So when you're having a flooding incident, unless you have access to a pile of sand, there's no way to fill sandbags. So as I'm having this epiphany, like, oh, I'll just fucking put sandbags up. I'm like, oh, there's 3 inches of water in my yard. I'm not going to get any sand out of there. Where the fuck am I going to get sand or dirt or anything? So, and like 3 hours later, the water finally goes away. My pool is overflowing. It's just been raining nonstop since Friday, and it's just so much water and flash flooding and everything else. And God help us, because we were like, oh, it's been 100. The heat index was like 103, 104 for like so many days with the humidity and all this bullshit. We're like, oh man, we could really use some rain. Really use the coolest thing off. And now it won't stop raining. So, yeah, that's enough. It's enough. Yeah. We're good now. Yeah. And it's supposed to rain. We're like forecast thunderstorms all through the next week too. So it's fucking hell. So anyway.
Well, and then of course there's a hurricane coming for the East Coast too. So
that's South Carolina. Those guys, those are the risks you take when you move down there. I don't worry about that necessarily in Jersey, especially now that I'm not in the Air National Guard. So yeah, it's one fucking thing I don't have to worry about.
Oh my God, we're gonna have to have an episode one of these days where we just talk.
We should do it in October. We should do it like on the anniversary.
Oh right.
We should do it on the anniversary. We should have a shelter episode. Because there is Star Wars references in the shelter.
There are, yeah, but there were
some key events that were happening.
Such an experience. You'll have to bring out your notes because
I do.
I think I've blocked a lot of that from my memory.
Extensive notes. So anyway, to finish off my week in Star Wars, as I've eaten up probably 20 minutes.
It's been a long time.
It's been nonstop schoolwork, like all this other shit that's been going on. Trying to catch up with sporting events and family stuff, and I've just had it's overwhelming amount of schoolwork for whatever reason, and trying to keep up with it. I've got one more fucking thing I got to do. I got to do a fucking annotated bibliography for another fucking paper.
Sounds great.
Yeah, it's fucking wonderful. And so the topic I picked, everyone, the Kathy and Kate were telling me, like, do Star Wars. Yeah, do a Star Wars thing. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. You know, it's because it's an argumentative paper.
Okay.
And it'd be probably easy to do something based on Star Wars, but like the first thing you have to hand in to turn in this paper is 7 references that you're going to use. And one of them has to be a fucking scholarly fucking report and all this other bullshit. And they have, so, some of the references have to come from the fucking school library. I'm like, what Star Wars shit am I going to pull out of there? Probably nothing.
Yeah.
So I've been agonizing over this for like 2 days trying to pick a fucking topic. And my brain just hasn't been working right. And so finally, at 1 a.m, I decide, like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do like, the question I'm going to argue is like, should we go back to the moon? Right? It's a valid point. It's fairly topical, right?
Yeah.
So I pull a bunch of fucking references, and there's nothing that like, because it's everybody in NASA is kind of like waiting. They're like, okay, we're going to the moon. Maybe. Apparently there's a whole thing like, welcome to the astronomy segment of the All Things Star Wars podcast.
At least we're getting into space now.
Yeah, we're getting closer. We get he's gonna have to pee, by the way. He's at the bottom of that gallon.
Yeah. It's all right, I got a spare.
Nice. You can pee in that one?
No, this
on air.
Full.
All right. Anyway, to shorten the story, there's like the reference material that I'm finding, like there's nothing definitive saying that yes, we should be going back to the moon. And I'm like, fuck me. Everything is straight down the middle. Like, there's like this neutrality where nobody wants to commit to the fact, except for the president, that we should be going back to the moon. So I'm like, fuck. So now after we're done with this, and I'm either going to choose a new topic or I'm just going to bullshit my way through this one. Sorry, Professor, if you're listening. And if you are, thank you. But yeah, it's been a rough fucking week. So and this is due by the end of today. It's the last thing I have to do for my schoolwork this week. Thank God. It's the last thing on my sticky note.
At least you don't have anything else after the podcast that you have to do, except
for this. And then the birthday,
the party that you're hosting. Yeah,
it's just my sister-in-law. I don't like I'm posting thing.
I was just posting.
But yeah, that is going on. Thanks for reminding me, Jason. What the fuck? Anyway,
all right. Are you done?
Star Wars shit.
Yeah, let's get into some more Star Wars stuff because we got one other thing before we.
The chat is dead silent, by the way. I don't know what's happened.
You've either bored them to tears or they're just enthralled with the life of Dave Martin. I don't know. It's one or the other.
It could go on. I could monologue for another fucking half hour if we needed.
This could just be the Dave Martin podcast. I'm sure you could fill the whole time
it's not the first time. It's not the first time that this has happened.
So, last episode.
No, I was saying the only thing missing is a rant, but that could be coming up.
True. Yes. So, last episode, we finished off Rebel Season 3. Spent a lot of time on the Twin Sons episode of that season because a lot of controversy with the whole Darth Maul dying in 2 seconds to Obi-Wan. Big Lovin kind of took exception to that, and he posted a video in our private Facebook group. It was an official video from half of the crew of the Star Wars show. So it's a legit thing. And they talked about that episode. Dave Filoni was on there, a couple other people involved with the production. And they kind of talked about that episode, not specifically about the fight. I mean, it did come up. And it's so funny because in one part of it, Dave Filoni says, like, oh, yeah, we felt it didn't need to be this long because of this, this, and this. And he ran off a bunch of excuses. But separately from that, in a different statement, he's like, yeah, we had to cut a whole bunch of stuff from this episode because we were pressed for time. I'm like, what the fuck, man? Did you cut a bunch of shit or not? Did you shorten it because you were short on time?
I don't remember. I don't know if it was Filoni that made the time comment. Somebody
I thought it was him that did.
I know that they probably all talked about in some form or another, like having to cut things out of the episode, but I wasn't sure it was him. It might have been the producer or somebody like that. But so they definitely said that there was an issue with timing. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't change the fucking fact that and and thanks to you might already said this. I was off in space. Welcome to the Sidebar to Know Things Star Wars podcast. Thanks, Tom. Dick. I'm still working on that Sidebar Cantina T-shirt. That wasn't really a sidebar. That was Week at Star Wars. Sidebars are different. This is a sidebar.
Yes.
Anyway,
but it's Star Wars related.
So, anyway, thanks, Big Lovin', for putting this out in the group, right, for us to watch. That Rebels recon show was something that wasn't like just for that episode. I think they did that for every episode.
Okay, so that's kind of like the complement to what they were doing in Clone Wars, where they'd have one of these recap shows for each episode of Clone Wars. So the same kind of deal. Yeah,
and the chick hosted. I know I've seen other ones that they've done. That's why it didn't seem like it was like they didn't make a big deal on anything. Just say, okay, here's the Twin Sons episode. I don't care. This is one of those things where maybe it's an expectation thing or whatever, but I give Filoni and the writing group and everyone else kudos for the fact that they made a decision that this is what they believed the outcome should be of the Maul Obi-Wan fight. You know, this is the outcome. Okay. So they made a decision and they stuck with it. Okay. So good on you. However, I still don't think I have to agree with everyone that was upset about it when it first came out. Like they, even in Rebels Recon, they made it seem like, you know, hey, people are, you know, might feel some kind of way about it, but this is the way it is. And then it moved on, like even in Recon episode. So it's obvious that they wanted to make sure that like, hey, look, this was the way this thing goes down. It doesn't need to be a huge, you know, lightsaber battle and blah, 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 blah. And I just really feel like you don't. It's such an incomplete ending to the character. There's no real closure there. Like, I don't think, because the expectation is we were talking about how did Obi-Wan know that you know Ezra was coming? How did all these things come about? And there's so many things you can talk about to figure out, like when you're bringing Obi-Wan into this, especially Alec Guinness Obi-Wan, and I love that they spent the time to get. They had a character who could really portray Obi-Wan as, you know, the Alec Guinness Obi-Wan, and so they did the episode well. I'm not saying that they didn't, but I'm just saying when it really comes down to that fight scene, it still doesn't do it for me.
Oh, yeah.
And I guess it doesn't have to, because we're beyond that now.
Yeah, it's just my thing is the people who create all of this Star Wars content, even Filoni, which I wasn't expecting this from him, but you know, fucking everybody over under Kathleen Kennedy right now, and even going back to George Lucas, their attitude has always been, we're gonna make what the fuck we make, and we don't give a shit what anybody wants, what anybody expects. And at some point, people are going to get sick of it. If you keep disappointing people, you keep doing things the way you want to fucking do it and not the way the fans would like to see it, eventually they're not going to be fans anymore. So you have to throw some fan service out there here and there. You have to kind of do what we expect sometimes. You don't have to do it all the time.
I think the alternate point to that is, I think that the fan service that they decide to roll with is not necessarily not comparable to what we're actually, you know, trying to get to with our expectations.
Sure.
So look, it's I like Dave Filoni. I like this. I like the Rebels series. I like what he's done for the Star Wars universe, and I think he has as close a relationship to George Lucas as anybody.
Yeah, yeah.
So
they worked really close during Clone Wars.
Yeah, and he's there. You know, he's kind of George's Padawan, really. And
yeah,
it's and all that being said, they made a decision, and like Force Awakens, like The Last Jedi, and everything else that's going to come out from this point forward, we have to live with these decisions. We don't have to like it, but we have to live with these decisions. And excuse me, God, I'm like Rick here. It's constant burping.
Yeah. But I mean, but my point being, though, if it's just a constant barrage of, oh, you just have to deal with this, you just have to live with this. Well, why? Why should I? Why should I even bother at this point? If you're just going to keep throwing bullshit at me that I don't want to see or that I wasn't expecting in a bad way, you know? I say me personally, I'm just saying the general fan.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to, I guess it's tough to get a pulse of what the general fan really wants. You know what's going to be interesting is when the theme parks open. And I know Disney in the past has done things in the theme park to get an idea of what the fans of particular things, like what their interests are, what they, kind of even what their expectations are, but for certain things like character interviews and what people are buying. And they really do a lot of analysis on what's going on in the park.
Oh, sure.
Especially when it comes to like new rides and shit like that. So I'm really curious as what's going to happen with our, oh shit, what's the world called?
The Star Wars Land?
Yeah, it's supposed to be
like the name of it. It's Galaxy's Edge. Is the
Galaxy's Edge? Thank you. And with the twin spires and all that. But yeah, I'm really curious to see what Disney's going to do, because you're going to have a lot of fans go through there. And Jason, we may be starting to become the minority. You know, us as the older Star Wars fan, because the money and the fan base is now grown out of our, we focus on it because this is where we are. And I think we've talked about this before. Like, even with the comics and how we're looking at things, like we're not the target. And if their target's shifted and we're looking outside of that, then we're not going to pick up what they're laying down a lot of these times.
That's a valid point. And it's hard for me to accept the fact that I'm not part of that key demographic anymore. It's what do they talk about? It's like the 18 to 32-year-old males is like always is like the prized fucking demographic for most like advertisers and everything. For an eternity, that was us, right? We were that 18 to 32 or 18 to 36-year-old males. It's like, yes, we are the top consumers. And now it's like, oh fuck, we're
not checking that box anymore, brother. We're in a whole different category. So I think, to the point is, now this episode had come out, before a lot of things. I forget the timing of when Twin Suns came out and all that. I think it was December of 2016, right? It
was right around the time of Rogue One.
Okay. And Len Brown was saying in the chat, he said, give us a Rogue One every few years and then he'll be good. So I agree. I think a lot of people would enjoy that. Yes. And it may happen that way, honestly, but that's a whole nother conversation. It's just, I think as we, the things that upset us and the things that we're looking for, we have to just take a moment and think about, like, what is the target here? What's the target demographic? With the toys that are coming out, with the movies that are coming out, the shows, with this Resistance show, this obviously is kids. It's based on a show for kids, just like when Clone Wars initially came out and you sat there with your kids to try and watch it, and there was no interest really in it. And yet, now that we're looking back on it, hindsight being 2020, there's a lot of relevancy in what the show had.
Oh, sure.
So while we may not be the target demographic, we're pulling a lot of information from that, and as we're realizing with Rebels and when we get back to Clone Wars. So that's I think is the big takeaway. That and dogs barking loudly in the background.
All right. So we've been going for almost an hour now. Should we finally get into our main topic?
Jesus Christ, that's really been an hour.
It's been about 50 minutes. So,
hey, look, if for nothing else, I'm good at just draw this out.
So luckily, we're only talking about 3 individual comic books. We're talking about Poe Dameron's issues 14, 15, and 16. This is all part of one self-contained storyline, even though it's really just a continuation of the last storyline. And the name of these is called Legend Lost. took me a minute to realize exactly what that was referring to. I'm assuming that's referring to Lulo Lumpur, who was killed in the storyline previous to this, because otherwise there's really no mention of a lost legend at all anywhere in these 3 issues. So I'm assuming this is all him, because they're still dealing with him pretty much throughout these books, like dealing with the loss of him.
Right. I would agree with that.
Yeah, because he's part of Poe's Black Squadron. And if you remember, Lulo goes back to the old Rebellion days. One of our first episodes of the podcast, God, this must have been episode like 3 or 4. We reviewed the Shattered Empire comic book series. And he was a big part of that. He was closely tied with Poe Dameron's parents, Shara Bey, his mother, and I can't remember the dad's name.
I can't either.
Yeah, something Dameron. Go figure.
Yeah. Bill.
Yeah, Bill Dameron. And, Lulo was their commanding officer. At least he was Shara's commanding officer in her squadron. It was like the Green Squadron or some shit. And, he had a relevant part in that story. And I guess after the war ended, he was still part of Lulo and Bill's, or not Lulo, but Shara and Bill's lives. And I guess he kind of helped raise Poe. And Poe refers to him as like an uncle throughout this, and it really hit Poe hard losing him in that battle. And the issue 14 starts off with Lulo's funeral at the Resistance base. And one thing that really jumped out at me right from the start is the artwork. I don't know if the artwork's always been this good, but it looks really good this time around.
It's changed. Like it sometimes I noticed it too, like especially when. Because I accidentally, because I was just thumbing through comics as I was waiting for my daughter to get done. I went into issues 17 and 18, and the drawing seemed different. Like the artist seemed different. So I don't know if it was a different artist or not. I could look it up, but I'm not going to. But yeah, I agree with you. Like there was definitely the artwork suddenly like had some pop to it.
Yeah.
When we got into this particular series.
Yeah. And it starts off with a real sentimental moment. They're talking at Lulo's funeral. Poe has this long speech talking about the story of Obi-Wan and when he sacrificed himself, and when he died, he disappeared and everything. And he just went into this whole thing about becoming one with the Force. A really nice moment. I had no issue with any of this at all. It was a nice speech by Poe, and then Leia after the fact kind of telling him like, hey, I'm grounding you because you're not dealing with this right. Because Poe wanted to go right back to work. He wanted to go out and start running more missions and everything. And I think Leia kind of recognized that, hey, you need to slow down for a couple of days, be with your squadron and deal with this.
The RM number is too high right now.
Yes, exactly. And I guess we talked about Agent Terex. In the last time we talked about the Poe comics, he was a former Imperial stormtrooper, became associated with the First Order by a whole bunch of scenarios that we're not going to get into. Well, they bested him at the end of the last story and turned him over to the First Order. So now he's captured and he's imprisoned on a First Order ship. And they basically, after some back and forth between him and Phasma, she basically decides, okay, yeah, you're still going to stay in the First Order, but we're going to do some shit to you.
Yeah.
And they turned him into a fucking cyborg.
Yeah, they gave him a Borg implant.
Yeah. So yeah, now he is one with the collective and he just follows orders. It's really fucking weird, especially when they give him to that commander, that other First Order chick. And what is it with the First Order, like with these big Amazonian like women as in positions of power? We see it in
shit. Is that in 17? That might have been in 17. Like, I don't care if I'm spoiling it or not. Sorry. But in issue 17, I think it starts with her, because she has like one black eye and then there's the other eye is normal. Yeah. Well, that black eye, like, I guess there's like some extract from something where like she puts it in her eye. Because if you know, she's buff as shit. Like she's like real super fucking, buffed out. And it's apparently has something to do. It's like HGH. She puts it in her eye, and apparently it makes like her as a human like fucking incredibly strong, and it like enhances, or as she put it, it completes a human.
Is that like more? Is that a better absorption point than like sniffing it or like putting it up your asshole, like putting it right in the eye?
Probably. Well, it's a soft tissue area. So, I mean, I'm not a doctor, but I played one on TV. But I can imagine, or maybe the eye is just like a cybernetic implant and it has a direct access to whatever this material is.
So I shouldn't put cocaine in my eye to see if it absorbs faster? Is that what you're
saying? No.
Okay.
I'm going to go with no. Don't do that.
All right. If anybody out there has put cocaine in your eye, let us know how it worked out.
Yeah. And if you're in the military and still maintain a clearance, don't tell us who you are.
Right. So where were we? Oh yeah. So we're still dealing with Lulo's death back with Black Squadron. We have this weird moment between Jess, who's one of the members of Black Squadron. She's the one from, if you remember, from Force Awakens. It isn't working. What do we do?
Yes.
She has this moment with Poe where like they have this real interesting connection. I'm like, oh, does she want the D right now? Is that what's going on here? Because
she gets the D from somebody else.
No, you're thinking the other chick.
Oh, that is the other chick. Yeah, that's right.
Who's Bone and Temin. Yeah, because they make that very clear. I don't remember if they mentioned it in the first 13 books, but oh god, they make sure to point it out that these two are together.
Yeah, make space up there on that fuselage.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, come on, get a room, guys. Like, wow, okay. We're doing this.
Yeah, we're just going to walk away from that one.
Mm-hmm.
Where that's what Dameron does anyway.
Yeah. A lot more sentimental moments between Leia and Poe, and then we get the reveal of Cyborg Terex, and that's the end of issue 14.
Yeah.
Issue 15, oh my god, I hate this fucking cover so much. Did you see the cover of issue 15?
I don't remember, honestly.
Oh, god. It's so fucking cheesy looking. Like, it angers me whenever I look at it.
Let me see it. Bring it up.
Okay. I don't know how well you can see it. Fuck. Just lost my... Yeah, it's kind of hard to...
Poe smiling in an X-Wing.
Yeah, it's just... If you look at it up close, it's real
audience.
Cheesy looking. I don't like it.
Oh, excuse me. Jesus Christ, this really is. I'm having a Rick and Morty episode here.
How's that show going for you, by the way?
I finished it.
Everything that's online?
Fucking hilarious, man. No, there's only 3 seasons, and I watched all of them.
Okay.
So,
and
sidebar. So our former boss, who is from the Pittsburgh area, for again, football sidebar. So the fucking Steelers tied the Browns today.
Like that was the final score?
That was the final score. It was 21-21. They fucking tied. But granted, it was fucking rain, like typhoon raining, and fucking miserable and whatever. But the fucking Steelers tied the Browns. It's just so pathetic.
Oh my god. I just pulled up NFL.com. The headline for that is "The Browns don't lose."
Yeah, the Browns didn't lose. They're gonna have a fucking parade, and apparently that's like the Browns broke a streak of like it was their first home winner that they haven't lost in 14 games. But you didn't win it.
Right.
Oh god. I am so glad, as much as I had to suffer in the late 80s, early 90s as an Eagles fan, I didn't have to suffer like that. Where we didn't get wins. We had to suffer through like blackouts and stuff like that, like television blackouts and shit like fucking craziness. But anyway, so our former boss sent me a picture. I'm in this group chat with him, and there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 beers he drank during that game. Now they're Iron City. So they're complete shit beer. It's like drinking fucking Busch Light.
That doesn't matter. I don't think I could drink 19 cups of water over the course of a fucking.
Yes, you can.
Game.
You do. It's not that hard. I've drank 33 fucking Coronas in one night. It's relaxed. It's possible.
Jesus Christ.
That's why I use my liver as a kickstand, Jason. But it's just funny. The fucking Browns didn't lose. Congratulations, Ohio.
That is too funny. That's kind of like remember the first season of South Park when they had the football episode and the uncle was betting on the game for them to beat the spread, and the whole point was that the South Park cows, they beat the spread. So
Right.
they ended up like losing 48-7 as opposed to 48-0, and they beat the 41-point spread or the 42-point spread, some shit like that. It was
I don't even know what the spread was in that game. So it's all those poor schleps that probably picked the fucking Steelers as like an easy pick for their I bet you there's a lot of people that are knocked out of their pools this week. So anyway,
issue 15. So we finally get introduced to what the actual story of this 3-part series is at the beginning of issue 15. And guess what? It's a fuel shortage story. We've been getting a lot of these lately between fucking Rebels, obviously Last Jedi, and now in this Poe thing, it's like it's the quest for fuel, because now all of a sudden in the 2010s, fuel is important in the Star Wars universe.
Well, okay, so how much time do we have left?
Exactly half an hour.
All right, perfect. So this is one of those things where I don't necessarily have a problem with them talking about, like, these are the comics, right? This is kind of, if I think about it, more of like a building block on some of the things that we don't get to see, in the movie. Like, movies can only be so long, even though TLJ was one of the longest Star Wars movies ever. You only can build so much into the movie to develop the storyline. So, Last Jedi notwithstanding, because they did talk about fuel and having issues with supplies.
Oh, did they mention fuel in The Last Jedi? Was that a plot point?
Fuck off!
I must have missed that.
Shut up! I'm trying to make a point. So the fact that in the comics that like there's some allusion to the fact that like, okay, the Resistance needs supplies. Like even in is it in this comic or the next one where Leia's, oh shit, it's in the next one, but there's conversations about Leia. They need money, they need supplies. Where they're getting their supplies is running out. They need fresh sources and things like that. So the fact that they're showing that the Resistance and kind of that this is not something that was, these things just don't magically appear. They actually have to scrape and get these things together. I don't necessarily have a problem with the fact that fuel has never been an issue ever before. Like, we did have a trade blockade. They had to have been trading something. And all the books that we've been reading, especially the Thrawn series, has been really based around
resources.
Resources.
Like
building a Death Star, building the TIE Defenders, shit like that. So it's getting to those things that are building. They're building the things that build our Star Wars universe.
And I get that. Like, I totally agree with that. Like, especially when we're talking about like the Death Star and like all of the logistics that go into that. But it's just fucking weird that it's like all of a sudden right now, like every piece of fucking canon seems to be relying on, we need supplies, we need fuel. It's like, spread it out, guys.
So you make a note in here that this was before Last Jedi.
Yes.
Like this comic came out. So it's just, I don't know when it came out. You didn't put that in the notes. And so I blame
it came out in May of that year. So Last Jedi came out 7 months later.
Okay. So you're not, okay. It's not, it seems like it's all showing up late, but however, I don't, like I said, I don't necessarily have a problem with it. It doesn't take me out of the story.
No, it just feels like they're just regurgitating.
The Poe Dameron storyline takes me out of the story because, quite frankly, even before we get to the end of this fucking three book series, I don't give a shit about any of it. There has been zero revelations about anything for me in the Poe shit. We make a comment here. We're going to talk about the end, but for me, there's no. I have no buy-in. Yeah. I want to get excited about reading this comic, and I can't for some reason.
Well,
maybe it's my personality, because we know Bronco Fett absolutely fucking loves it, because he's someone that's been wanting us to talk about the Poe Dameron shit. Maybe I haven't read deep enough into it.
Let's pause that conversation to the end of the episode, because
I have to have my rant now.
No, because I do want to get into some stuff, specifically in issues 15 and 16.
Fine.
And ultimately, it revolves around them trying to get fuel. So they go to meet up with these traders. First Order found them first. Blah 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 blah. that shit doesn't matter. What I found was fucking hilarious was the fact that they get there. Oh no, this ship that has all this fuel that we were supposed to pick up is rigged. And now it speeds up and you can't slow down or it explodes. I'm like, did we just lift the fucking plot of Speed for this fucking issue?
Can't go slower than 55 miles an hour. And Sandra Bullock is on the bus.
Yes. I'm like, what the fuck? So yeah, they can't slow down now. Once this ship started going, they can't slow down or it's gonna explode. And that's the whole thread for the next 2 issues. I'm like, what the fuck?
When you just said that, like the way you said it, I thought about Colonel Sanders and fucking Spaceballs. We can't we have to slow down first.
Bullshit.
That's what we should do next week. It's fucking Spaceballs.
We did Spaceballs on the show already.
Did we?
Yeah. You know, there was a Spaceballs animated series.
I did not.
Yeah.
I actually did know that, but I didn't watch it.
Yeah, my kids watched it once. It was a retelling of the movie stretched out and with all the cursing taken out.
Oh.
Yeah. But yeah, anyway, I had to bring up that Speed reference. I'm just like, what?
Yeah.
Are you for real?
It's a bomb.
Yeah, it had to be a nod to that, right? Like there's no way they didn't know that this was already a plot of a major Hollywood movie from the early 90s.
Or it's just weak storytelling.
Yeah. And that could go back to the fuel thing too. It's just like, oh fuck, we need something for them to do for 3 issues. They need gas, and we'll fucking do the whole Speed plot.
We have this fucking weirdo blonde fucking buff bitch that we got to incorporate somehow into what's going on with T-Rex and everybody else. So yeah, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna have this, what I don't like is. So they show up. The First Order gets to the fucking. Apparently, T-Rex knows like everything that's going to fucking happen with the Resistance, right?
Yeah.
Apparently, has like all the data from fucking Ulu or whatever the fuck it is.
Mm-hmm.
So they fucking get to this fuel dump. Or this fuel fucking freighter before the Resistance does, and fucking have it out with this alien. They kind of look like Kaminoans, but they're not.
Yeah, I'm sitting here trying to figure out what they are. I know we've seen this species before.
Have we? I didn't recognize it.
You know what it actually looks like? It looks like half of that 2-headed creature that narrated the fucking pod race. You remember the pod race with the fucking 2-headed commentator?
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like half of that, like just one of those heads. But I don't know, whatever.
But they have multiple arms.
Yeah,
I don't know. It was anyway. Let's just get to your notes because the shit that all I'm going to do is complain about it.
Yeah, and really, I didn't have much else mentioned on here. Leia does refer to Han as her husband at one point during this, so I guess they never really split up and got divorced. Just after they lost Ben, they just kind of like...
He just went off and did his thing.
Yeah, and yeah, that's a really weird relationship. Hopefully someday we get some canon to fill in that block, like what the fuck happened.
I can tell you right now that if you read the Solo book, you know, the Lando and Han book, which is
The Last Shot.
Yes, you are correct. It's over there.
Yes.
Last Shot. And when you read that, there is like it starts. You kind of see what Han's thinking at times with a like basically young Ben and Leia doing her thing, and like what his mindset is, and you can almost see the distancing, you know, for him and how he acts. So there is some canon that starts to point us into, you know, that type of direction.
Yeah.
There is great back and forth right now on the chat with some Spaceballs references.
Oh, nice. I'll have to go back and read that here in a little bit. But yeah, not much else happens. That the blonde Amazonian First Order bitch, she's she's really fucking with
We're gonna go with blonde buff bitch.
Blonde buff bitch, yes. So she's really fucking with T-Rex in this. Like at one point, he gives her some information. She's like, "Oh, you're such a good boy," and she like pinches his cheek, and he just has to fucking stand there and take it. It's something. I get the feeling something's gonna happen, and he's gonna break out of this thing eventually, and he's gonna.
Well, there's a panel. There's a fucking panel that they show where she fucking like knocks him over or some shit, and they close in on his face, and it makes it seem like, oh, okay, like he's having his own thought.
Yeah.
Did you get that feeling when you saw that panel? Yes. So something's going to have to happen. Like he's either going to give them some bullshit information so he can try and take the ship back or something.
Yeah, not much else. The whole rest of the series kind of revolves around them piloting this fucking speed bomb, and they can't slow down. So they're like, fuck it, we're just going to go find the First Order and shove this up their ass. And that's pretty much what they do in issue 16. Let's see, what do I have for my notes? They make it very clear that Kare and Timon are boning.
Right.
If we didn't know it before, we certainly know it now. Commander, Malaris is her name. Not sure how I feel about her. And then Poe, we get a little precursor to Poe's calling of the First Order from The Last Jedi in this, where he calls up the First Order ship, and he kind of like taunts them a little bit, and he's kind of fucking with them. And he convinces them to abandon ship. He's like, look, we're about to ram this thing into your fucking ship, and it's going to explode, and you're all going to die unless you fucking abandon ship right now. And, big blonde bitch is like, no, don't you fucking abandon ship. And the rest of the people are like,
fuck it.
We're out of here. Yeah, we're out of here. So... and that's kind of where it ends. They blow up the First Order ship. Oh, there was one good line at the end. So I guess Jess has bad luck with astromech droids. Apparently she's destroyed a lot of them, and hers was destroyed in this one. And she even says that the droids refer to her as the Great Destroyer. Yeah. I laughed when I saw that. I thought that was pretty funny.
Well, I mean, they allude to her astromech droid actually being the one piloting the ship that ultimately, blows up.
Yeah, because they left the droid in charge while they abandoned ship, and so she's the Great Destroyer of droids, which I thought that was kind of funny.
And it's relevant into when we get into 17 and going forward, like it's mentioned again about her not having an astromech.
But that's it. That's Legend Lost. Honestly, I didn't dislike it as much as I had disliked the previous Poe stuff. Maybe it was because it was just in a shorter burst and I wasn't trying to blast through like 10 issues, and I was able to just casually read these 3 and just be like, yeah, okay, that was fine. It wasn't great. Like you mentioned, it didn't like blow me away. No big revelations or anything. It was just a way to pass the time for 3 issues.
Yeah. And see, I reread because initially you said, oh, we're going to go from 11 to 16. So I started at 11 and read through that horse shit. And then got to this and was already irritated with the storyline. I just, like I said, the Poe shit is not grabbing me for whatever reason. I don't know what it is. I think it's too campy at times. I'm not getting anything out of it that there's no big reveal for me here that I'm expecting. I'm really not that interested in his character because I feel like in the broader scheme of things, while he is an integral part of what's going on, he's not one of the big 3. You know what I'm saying? Like, does that make sense? To an
extent, yes. But I mean, in one of these issues, Leia did kind of insinuate that, someday he's going to be the person that's in charge, or a lot of it's going to depend on him.
Yeah, and then in fucking Last Jedi, fucking purple hair bitch gets the command. Because,
that is true.
Because she was a vice admiral or whatever, I mean, it was probably appropriate. But Poe to me is an ancillary character. He really is. I don't understand why in this series, why Temmin is an afterthought. He's just part of this fucking group. In the movies, I kind of get it because you can only have so many characters doing so many things.
Right, because you've only got 2 hours to fill. And so you just can't.
Temmin, there was an opportunity at the end because, like I said, I started from 11, worked into 16. at the end of the other one, how they got T-Rex, one of the things they did was Temin uploaded fucking Mr. Bones into the fucking battle droid that they had.
And we did talk about that. We talked about that the last time we talked.
And I love that. I love that fucking reach back into what's been in a novel to establish more of Temin's character. I want to see more of that. I agree. I want to see more of what Temin brings to this group. I'm really sick of Poe going out there saying goofy shit and then fucking basically endangering everybody, lucking out with his abnormally fucking good skills or abnormally good luck or whatever you want to call it. And we can have that Force Tree discussion fucking another time. But it really comes down to it. It's just not something I'm really interested in. Now, saying that, I don't know where we're at time-wise, but I know you said looking ahead, like, I guess issue 26 picks up at The Force Awakens.
Yeah, so I looked ahead. Yeah, I cheated a little bit. And if you look at it, starting with issue 20 is a series called Legend Found, because this was Legend Lost. Now, this starts Legend Found, which I'm pretty sure is them actually finding out where Lor San Tekka is. Makes sense. That's a fucking 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 6 issues right there. But that rolls right into The Awakening. And that is where it picks up at The Force Awakens. And I guess the whole thing is Poe is sitting with Rey and Finn on the Millennium Falcon after The Last Jedi, and he's catching them up with what happened to him during The Force Awakens. So
after The Last Jedi or after Force Awakens?
After The Last Jedi. Remember at the end of The Last Jedi, they were all on the Falcon. They all left fucking Salt Planet.
Right.
And I think this takes place after that because they're all sitting on the Falcon flying away, and Poe starts telling them, oh, this is what happened to me when we crash landed on Jakku. Remember, because you got to remember, this is really one of the only chances that him and Finn have had to sit down and talk about, like, hey, what the fuck happened to you when we crashed that TIE fighter on Jakku?
Right.
So I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Bronco Fett, but I'm pretty sure that's him telling them, oh, this is what happened. I crashed on Jakku, and then I did this, and blah, blah, blah. And then it kind of all merges the story. So that's what it actually picks up with The Force Awakens and fills in that gap of Poe's story.
Huh.
So now we don't necessarily have to do it anytime soon, but I think it's worth it to try to tough it out and try to read up to that point.
I think the next time we do Poe Dameron, let's get all the way up to that point.
Yeah, and then just talk about whatever is relevant.
Bronco Fett's mentioned in the chat that he confirmed what it is that you had said. Okay. And I guess he said the last issue is due out on the 25th of September. So, and
last
that's
issue of the whole series?
Yeah, I guess so.
Oh, shit.
So yeah, next time we do Poe Dameron, which won't be for a little bit. We got things happening, and we can't do comics 2 weeks in a row because not everybody enjoys the comic episodes.
Yeah.
Even though over an hour of it is me fucking yammering. So, but that's, I think, is the way to go. I'd rather read all the way up until that point. We'll talk about the highlights, in between, what we think are the highlights, between the two of us, based on our notes. And then we can pick up from there and really be able to talk about, I'd rather have, it's a much more interesting conversation to see where these tie-ins come in to the movies. Because
honestly, that's the only reason I wanted to read this in the first place, was to see.
Yeah, and we're almost 20 issues into it, and we really don't have anything.
No,
because I've read up to 20 something. So it's
The only revelation that we've gotten in this whole thing was that Lor San Tekka was like a Jedi artifact collector. That's the only thing that we found out through this that we didn't know already.
Sorry, there's dust on top of my camera. I gotta get rid of that.
Yeah,
the podcast. Anyway,
so that was that. But yeah, that's these 3 issues in a nutshell. I'm not as disliking of this series as you. I think I'm willing to keep giving it a try, but and keep in mind, listeners, that all of these issues are available up through. Hold on, let me actually check on Marvel Unlimited. I'm actually curious how many of these are actually up there.
Here's hey, we're back to giving Marvel some plugs.
I know. Fucking, where's our kickback, Marvel?
Yeah, no shit.
So up to issue 24 is available on Marvel Unlimited, and then like each month a new one comes out. So by the time we fucking get back to reading this shit, yeah, we can at least get through the Legend Found series and maybe a little bit more. So
Fair enough. I mean, and I no, I don't have to. I only had the physical Poe Dameron comics. I only had the first handful of them. So
Yeah.
which
And that's
I
that.
think the only ones of those I still get anymore are the Vader ones. Vader and Star Wars. There's the only two I get right now.
Yes, and somebody's been harassing us a lot lately about the Vader, the new Vader comics.
Oh, it's in the chat.
It's in the can. We fully intend to cover it at some point, because I know some good shit happens in it, but it's just a balancing act. You know, we got to balance comics, TV shows, other shit. So we will get to it though.
So we have our Nielsen ratings that show us the numbers for when we do a comic episode, and so we have
yeah, he's not lying.
There's empirical data to prove that like comic episodes have to have a certain buffering.
Yes,
even though it's been, like I said, we spent an hour talking about bullshit. And some of it was Star Wars bullshit. At least we got into this. We still managed to talk about Rebels this week. Even though I think I put specifically in the YouTube tagline, we get away from Rebels. Not quite.
Yeah. And that was Donald Solsky, who has been harassing us about the Vader stuff, which I had a feeling it was him, but and he says support your local comic shop. I guess.
I am a firm believer in supporting local business, and
I do agree with that. But
and going to the comic shop to buy like the serious stuff, that's fine. And I know you can even do a lot of comic shops. You can do a subscription with them where you'll get the comic through them and do that stuff, because that's the way the one in the base was set up.
But the problem is that a comic book, a standalone comic book store as your primary business model is foolhardy endeavor at this point. Like, you cannot run a business strictly on selling physical comic books anymore. I mean, you just can't. I'm sorry. It's with the digital age and everything else that you just cannot rely on it. Now, if you do something like what Gamers Vault does, owned by frequent guest Bob Healy, they do comics, they do board games, they do Magic the Gathering, they do fucking used video games, they do fucking toys, they do all kinds of shit. So they have a diverse, business model, because you can't just rely solely on comics.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And unfortunately, and even when you go into those shops, there's, I don't know, you could go into a shop religiously and then suddenly that shop is gone. Now, the relationship.
That's happened to me in the past.
Yeah, it's happened to me twice. And we've had a couple of comic shops open that have toys and stuff like that. And I do. I do. I really, really try and support local businesses as much as I possibly can. But sometimes, especially with these comics, it's way easier to just get it in my mailbox, man. And I know it's going to be there. The money goes away, comics come in. That's how it goes.
It's the adult life, man. We ain't got time for all that other shit. We gotta.
The days of hanging out at the comic book store and flipping through stuff and things like that, or it's tough, man. This generation, these kids, they don't want to do that shit. They don't want to. They don't want to hang out at a comic book store. They don't even. You can't even fucking. You couldn't even. We had an arcade open that couldn't stay open. Fucking arcade.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, again, we're talking about that generational shift, right? We're talking about the shifting of the target audience. It's we're not. That's not where we are anymore. I'm making money off.
Yeah. Let's wrap this up. Next week, we haven't picked a topic yet, but based on some shit that's going down in my schedule, it's going to have to be an easy, non-research topic. So I was thinking like a top 5 or a top 10 list. We haven't really talked about what we want to do for that, but it's just got to be kind of an easy, fun topic, because I've got a whole bunch of shit coming up this week, and I'm not going to have time to fucking read or watch anything through the next time that we record.
Yeah, so I agree, and I have a feeling my week's going to be very similar.
Yeah,
based on current events. So we'll pick something. Shit, we can bullshit our way through 90 minutes of anything. I mean,
clearly, we did that for 60 minutes, no problem today, before we actually talked about the comics. So it ain't that hard. We'll come up with something. It'll be a fun topic too.
Yeah, we'll be good. Hey, feel free, listeners. Unfortunately, if you're listening to this on the audio podcast, maybe we don't get to you in time. By the time this will be out before Saturday, right? I would imagine. Hopefully.
Hopefully.
All right. So hopefully it'll be out before the next time we record. So if you're listening to this and you have an idea, fucking give it to us. And if you're listening right now, give us ideas. If we don't get to it this week, we could potentially get to it next week. So we're all about getting ideas. You can send your ideas to us on Instagram at All Things Star Wars Pod. You can get it to us on Facebook at the All Things Star Wars Pod. You can, and while you're there, you can, if you want to see what goes on behind the scenes and really have a lot of fun with memes, especially Nike memes.
Oh my god, they were off the chain this week.
It was great. It was fucking great. That's all in the private group where we publish all that stuff. So look for, find us on Facebook, type in All Things Star Wars Podcast or All Things Star Wars Pod. If you want to buy a t-shirt, you can go to teespring.com/stores/All Things SW Pod. And
all of these will be in the show description if you forget.
All the social media stuff will be in the show description. We got a new subscriber this week on YouTube. Continue, I posted something in the group, and I'm going to make a meme of it some sort of way. I just have to have time to finagle some pictures. But here's my PSA: be like Bronco Fett. Bronco Fett drawing signs up, posting on his personal page about the All Things Star Wars podcast. Showing us to the tens of thousands that are at Boise State. Really, if you get us out there, like us on Facebook, like us on, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, subscribe to us on YouTube, get us out there as much as you possibly can. And good things will continue to happen. We're going to be here. We're going to be here every week doing our thing. And we'd love to get our thing out to more people. So, like I said, be like Bronco.
Yes. So anyway, with that, we're going to close this out because we are just about out of time. But thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you, Dave. I know you've had a busy, rough week, so I'm glad we were able to do this. And until next time, may the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.